Hello, thanks for tuning in. Anyway, what to talk about? Today I want to free flow about a notion that is the dimension of language. What does that notion mean? How do I premise it? Well, language does have dimension. I mean, we can open up language and give it volume. I'm about to open up language here and give it more volume than your everyday ordinary verse of language, if you will. Like the everyday ordinary verse of language, we deal with putting fuel in our cars and putting food on our tables and paying our bills and saving up for a holiday and, talking about the media and talking about what's going on in the news and so on. And there's an ordinary, and talking about the planet and the environmental catastrophe that we're facing and so on. And that's, a broader spectrum of language in its own way. But yeah, the everyday ordinary language, and like I say, just paying your bills, getting your kids to school, meeting a friend to go dancing and so on. There's a certain field of language that comes with that. And there's a certain field of language that comes, let's say, Christmas time. When we all get together at Christmas time, there's a lot of nostalgia, a lot of, reminiscing about days gone by and so on, and our favourite Christmas and our oldest memories and so on. So, there's a certain package of language that fills up Christmas for us, and there's a certain package of language that fills up the whole year for us as we go about our dailies. And when a catastrophe strikes, like say there's a massive tsunami, there's a certain package of language for a month or so. We're all in our workplaces, in our home places, we're all sort of transfixed in this hypnotic state, and our language is like, oh my God, a tsunami, blessed to all those people, God, the world is crazy, God, there's so many things to fear and so on. So it opens up its own dimension of language. So we can open up the volume of language, okay? That's what I mean by the dimension of language. But how deep can we go? How much can we open up the picture? Through linguistics, through science, empirical science, through metaphysics, through spirituality, through mindfulness and so on, through yogic techniques, through abstract mathematics, and through psychiatry, through biology, through chemistry, we are starting to open up the dimension into what we are. And to open up the dimension, we have to be able to divulge it, we have to be able to relay it verbally, we have to be able to give it structure verbally. So to go into that structure, we're already in a bigger field of language. We've opened up its volume, we've opened up dimension in language. Anyway, so hopefully your mind has been open to a broader volume of language right now, just to show you how broad the mind can get with language. Now, I know you're familiar with this, but I don't really think you give it the kudos that it deserves. I don't really think you understand this bed, this field within you that is so broad, has so much volume, because in relation to dimension of spirituality and self, this is what gives us volume. This is what gives us dimension as beings, as sovereign beings, as a sovereign, brilliant, beautiful, monumental beings that we are. So yes, the dimension of language. But one of the points I want to get to here is this: like we're in trouble as a species. We all know that, and there's a class divide still. Okay, the emperor's still wearing no clothes, and so many are afraid to call it. You're in hypnotic states, and your language has been reduced in that respect. There's no dimension at all. It's kind of knotted up. It's clotted up. Okay, and we're all getting ready for it. Well, I'm not. The Queen's Jubilee next week. The Jubilee next week. And this is not about her as a woman per se. I'm happy to give her a hug. But how do we reach people who have lost touch with the source of humanity, have lost touch with the source of integrity and love? Okay, now they have dressed it up in their own bubble of what integrity is, a pseudo-integrity. The Queen lives by a pseudo-integrity, and you can't fault her because she hasn't put a full foot wrong in that field of pseudo-integrity, but it's pseudo, so it's all irrelevant, okay? And like I said, she's just a lost little sheep on a big dirty track through no fault of her own, as are the rest of them, and I'm sure they're all good people in their own way, kind of, but they've lost sight of source. And the oligarchs, there's so much old money out there still. We're entrenched in a class system, and there are people at the top who believe themselves to be separate than us, separate on a different branch, a different packet of DNA, and it has to be addressed. And if I'm wrong, hey, all is dandy then, okay? But if I look out my window and I see the structures of the world that we live every day, that we try to occupy every day in mind, it's very hard to find stability in it, because it seems to be, structured the wrong way, and our language teams, the narrative itself seems to be tied up in tiny little bubbles of thought, without volume, without dimension. Okay, so you can see where I'm going with this. So my point being is, how do we reach these people? How do we reach people? How do we reach a racist? How do we reach a sexist? We open up the volume of language. We bridge each other through this phenomenal tool, this ability to speak, this ability to relay the mind through phonetic structure. It's a phenomenal measure of our species, and even understanding that is opening up more dimension in relation to the volume of what we are, because we all have the ability to grasp this, to concur with this, to move into the dimension of language, as I've said. So yes, So, you know, to reach people at the other side of the table, okay, at this ugly table, you know, to reach the likes of Putin, you know, to reach the monarchy, to reach all those who have lost touch with reality and believe themselves to be on a higher branch, we have to open up our hearts to each other. You know, this stream is coming from this. I was watching a bit of morning TV yesterday, and you know, it related to some guy, some aide who works for the Queen and for the monarchy. He's been working many years, and he was telling a few anecdotes on the morning show. I was just having a breakfast and watching that surface shite, that mediocrity. But anyway, we all like a bit of hypnotic shine from time to time. But you know, it was very telling what this aide to the Queen, to the monarchy, to that pack said. He said, like, you know, they're all a bit afraid of making a blunder around these refined, brilliant people, the privileged. And from time to time they all make blunders. And he made the blunder once. He kind of laughed it off with a wry smile, like this didn't matter. But it spoke volumes to me. He said that he was basically saying to one of the royals, telling somebody that he was talking about the friendship he had with one of the royals. And Prince Philip, that dude, was in earshot and stepped in and said, you know, we offer you friendliness, but never friendship. Best not to forget that. It was more or less that. And I'm like going, what on earth does that mean? Like, you'll offer me friendliness but never friendship. I mean, I would question that. Like, if I offer you the integrity of thought, of, you know, dimensional thought, if I offer you the integrity of heart, if I offer you the integrity of honesty, the virtue of honesty, you know, the virtue of truth, if I offer you hugs, if I offer you beauty, if I offer you art, if I offer you intellectualism, if I offer you philosophy, if I offer you music, if I offer you dance, if I offer you aid in case you are in need of help, you still won't be my friend, okay? I mean, it's not about, you know, we have to be friends running around holding hands singing Kumbaya, my Lord together. I'm just talking about in general, okay? The principle of this position. Like if I said to you, you know, I'll offer you friendliness, but you will never be my friend. I mean, what am I saying to you? That I will not allow you and what your heart might be and the potential of it into me. That I won't allow your kids in or your friends in. That you in no way can come into me because you are not the measure of my ilk. Is that what is being said? How do I bridge that if that is the case? And it is the fucking case. It is the fucking case. We're sick of it. I'm sick of these primitive institutions raining down on us all and pretending like they haven't stolen all the fucking cake and using this pseudo a priori justification that is privileged, okay? Fucking privileged. I'm privileged to be able to talk and think like this. I'm privileged to have a beautiful son and beautiful friends, majestic friends. I'm privileged to have a beautiful family. I'm privileged to have health. I'm privileged to have lived 54 years so far on this planet and been graced by the beauty of so many brilliant beings, and I've been graced by the beauty of philosophical minds who are long dead but alive in my heart and mind and on my tongue right now as I open up you to the volume and dimension of language. See what I mean? Just free flowing with it. But when you know, you can flow with it, okay? It's just like jazz of the mind. So how do we reach these people? Okay, we reach them by, you know, I'd like to sit down and talk with them, okay, and in context tell you I understand the evolutionary road we've come up out of. We know we've evolved out of a monkey brain into language, into basic phonetic structures, now into these complex structures, okay. Our monkey mind has been opening as we were rising on this evolutionary track that we've all come up on, and we've lost on myriad paths and into broken half-measured ideologies, and our hats have been put on heads when we didn't understand the big existential square that we were tied up in trying to find a circle, because we got lost along the way. And through no fault of our own, we ended up in corrupt, dominant, hierarchical models of the world that were all ludicrous and pegged to the identity, of delusion, honestly. But we've all gotten lost and we need to come back together. And to touch people, you have to open up your heart to them and you have to speak to them with volume and tell them that you're about love, okay? To tell the monarchy, to tell the oligarchs, but is that your voice too? That would be my question to them. Can you hear me saying to you that I'm about love? Irrespective of my mistakes, of my shortcomings, I am doing my best to be about love. I am doing my absolute best to be about truth. Irrespective of the fact when I was a younger man, I lied sometimes, to play a game because I was lost and naive and ignorant and trying to fucking grow up. But I've grown up and that's what matters, okay? What are you? Can you not offer me the same verse and volume and dimension of language? Are you able to roll? Because this is what refinement is. I'm refined enough to drop it on the table on the chessboard like this, Your Majesty. This is coming from the poem. So come to the poems and wax lyrical for me. Let me hear your volume, because surely you're about love and surely you're about refinement, true refinement. The refinement of what our species is in relation to equality and love and integrity and honesty and truth. Because without that, you're worthless, ill-mannered, arrogant, ignorant, and surely you're not that, because you're coming across like that. And I'm happy to lord it over you if that is what your dirty little hat is. So anyway, the volume of language. So you can see even the way I wax lyrical and I build it up around the monarchy and I pop their little fucking bubble, how strong language can be. Okay, language is a very dominant force if you know how to punch like this, and I know how to punch, okay? It's easy to bring down empires through language structure. Okay, once you open up the volume of language, And you know, you can keep opening it up to the fact that there's some metaphysical source within us, and we're trying to find out what is consciousness, what is X, what is this God, ghost agency within all, you know, that is riding itself and rising along a bed of structure, a bed of axioms that are built into our mind. Okay, that's where language is taking us, and that's the path I'm on, and that's the path hopefully some of you will come on as we move forward, as we move out of these dark ages, as we move out of this world of half measures, as we move out of this schizophrenic head, as we move out of this paradigm that is doing its best given the circumstances of evolution and where we find ourselves on the map on this day. So anyway, yes, the volume of language. I hope you can think more now with the dimension of language and what it means. We have to open up ourselves in broader ways to reach each other. That's the overall point. We have to open up ourselves through heart and mind and spirituality and philosophy and intellectualism and love and integrity of truth and honesty. We have to open ourselves up into that voluminous way so we can meet each other with volume and then know each other with the integrity of that volume and move forward on that wave. Good as place as any to finish. Thanks for tuning in. Peace and love and logic and dimension.